If you're in Illinois, it's one of the very few places where there is some regulation on how you can wholesale deals, but that didn't stop Jesseme McVey, our guest today, who did 29 wholesale deals last year, and she's not even a registered agent, but she uses an agent to help avoid some of those attorney fees that are required in Illinois. So this is a podcast to 10x your income and replace your W-2 through wholesaling real estate. My name's David Lecco, and I created a process that's helped people like you get their very first wholesale deal 10,000 times in all 50 states over the last 7 years. And my co-host is Ryan Haywood, who actually took a 14-day wholesaling challenge in 2019, made $8,500 and has done 430 deals now. So Jesseme, how did you make $17,000 on your very first wholesale deal?
I was driving around my neighborhood that I own my rental properties. Thought maybe I might see a for sale sign. I saw a for sale sign. It looked for like a realtor. I went and wrote the number down. Then I thought to myself, Jess, if you write this number down, you're not going to call. So just get out and knock on the door. So I knocked on the door. It was a duplex. The one unit with no one answer. The other unit just happened to be the realtor that put the sign in the yard. It's just funny how the domino, how things line up in our favor sometimes. The seller actually had left 2 weeks before to go to Florida to deal with his dying parents. The realtor, for whatever reason, had not put it on MLS. He was just trying to sell it with a sign. I said, I'm interested in this as a rental. I want to add to my portfolio because I own duplexes in this neighborhood. I said, do you think that he'd be open to, this offer? He said, we'll just put it in. He was asking $140, $139. I put an offer in for $120. He came back at $123. I accepted it. It was in that moment, though, that I thought to myself, I think I know somebody that would want this duplex, and I want to try to wholesale it. So I asked the realtor once again. He's an investor himself. Got lucky there. Wholesaling with realtors always fly. He's like, sure. He goes, you can do whatever you like. I'm sure the seller will be fine with it. I said, so I called up my property manager. I said, Marty, are you interested in this duplex? And he said, yeah, sure. Then he realized he didn't have enough money. He turned me on to another person. I wholesaled it to that person for $139. So that was $17,000.
Which was the original price.
$123. And so,
right. So
yeah,
they listed it or they asked for $139. You got them down to $123. Then you sold it to somebody else for $139.
Yes, basically. Yeah. And the seller was fine with it. He knew it was never coming back. Motivated seller, right? Convenience and time was more important to him than trying to squeeze every second out of. His parents were dying in Florida. He was an older gentleman himself. It wasn't important at that time to try to get everything out of it. So that was the first one. Yeah.
So you had zero marketing costs because you were right.
Yeah.
Did you know that you wanted to do another wholesale deal, or was it just an accident? Why did you switch your mind to even wholesale it in the first place?
I wanted that cash. I wanted to do a deal. I wanted to do a wholesale deal. And I just wanted to see what it was like. The only thing that had held me back before was is having somebody knowing what to do with it once I got under contract, right? This, I knew for sure I had a buyer for it. I know it's a very desirable area. I know duplexes don't come along much in this area that I live in Porter County, Indiana, Northwest Indiana. There are just not a lot of duplexes available. And so I felt confident. I guess it was my confidence that wanted me to do it. Whereas if something else came along, a single family or maybe a multi-unit, something that was a little more out of my realm, maybe a different neighborhood that I didn't know, that I would be afraid to put it on a contract and then not have a buyer. And another thing was, if this gentleman didn't want it, I was going to buy it anyway. So it's all right, for that to happen. Whereas sometimes there's houses that I don't want to buy, so the only option is to wholesale it. And then I don't want to have to go back to seller and cancel a deal. Because I've been investing for 20 years, David, but the wholesaling, it was something I just started to even know about really 2016, 17. And then I did this one in, I think, 2018. Yeah.
Where was your cash coming from prior to wholesaling that you were using for your rental property acquisitions? Did you have a job or?
I did have a job, but my so from like 2000 and whatever 3 to 2015, I was just a landlord, very passive. In 2015-6, I started flipping. I had money that I had just saved up over time. I had a very lucrative job when I was younger. I had an opportunity in 2015 to flip. I flipped it, flipped another one. So I was building up my cash, right? Wasn't doing a ton of rentals at the time in 2015 and 16. Very picky, wanted a duplex. Came along, the very last morning, decided not to keep it. I kind of regret, actually, David, not keeping that duplex. It's $17,000, a lot of money, but when you think building wealth and everything, at the time I wanted to do the deal. But the cash came from my flips. In this case, so I would have got financing on that duplex if I couldn't have wholesaled it. Yeah. So I'm if that answered your question. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a lucrative job. You were investing. You were a passive landlord.
Yeah.
And you were ready to actively do more in real estate to earn more cash.
Yes.
Right. So you were flipping, and then you thought, if I wholesale, that's going to go a lot faster than flipping.
Yes.
So I want to try that.
Yes.
And then you did more.
Yes.
Right.
And the thing about, and I think that if you let me have a few minutes of your time with DealMachine, I think you definitely would want to hear what happened with the DealMachine and how that catapulted my business. Because that,
absolutely,
I only did one other wholesale deal in like 2017, 18, and then another one in 2019, right? 2021, my daughter went to school full time. I wanted to do more deals. I was getting outbid at auctions. Wholesalers were sending me properties I was getting outbid. I said, I'm cutting out the middleman. I'm going to start doing marketing myself. So in 2021 is when I knew about DealMachine, but I didn't really want to take the time to go out and do driving. But then when I realized I was just losing on deals all the time and I wasn't going to be able to build my business up more, I started driving in 2021. I drove for 4 months. I was taking pictures, sending postcards, and then I watched your podcast with Zach Booth. I like Zach. I watched him. I've watched his 40-day challenge. Then I was like, so I started doing what he was doing. So March, only the difference really I did was I stopped taking pictures. I just used his postcards. I did what he was doing. And then May, I got a call from a seller, and he had 4 properties. He just so first he had 2, and then I looked up his information. He had 2 more. I said, would you want to sell these other 2? He's like, yeah, I'd like to get rid of them all. So I went and looked at them. Within 2 weeks, I put them all under contract. I wholesaled 3 of them. I flipped 1 of them, and I made $115,000 on $250 in marketing. I sent 500 postcards, David, in one neighborhood. It was $250 in the total price for the cards, and I made $100.
Amazing.
Yeah. If I would have been able to flip them all, I would have made way more. But I don't like to do big flips. I find the really distressed properties. One of them was an easy flip, very cosmetic. The other 3 were kind of messed up, so I wholesaled those, and then so $115,000 on that. That was 4 properties. For $115. So that was $250 in marketing. That was because of DealMachine. I do all my stuff.
So you've been in this for
it's all driving for dollars. I don't really pull list or anything. I don't really. I got some referrals. 90% of my stuff is all DealMachine. It's all driving for dollars.
That's a
if I did texting and cold calling, who knows? I'd probably be doing 50, 60 deals. But I'm a one-woman show. I got 2 people to help me. So I'm like mom and pop.
A lean team.
What motivates you to keep going? That's the question.
What is that? What keeps me going?
What motivates you? Yeah, what motivates you to keep going?
I want to do more deals. Like 2020, I did 20. In 2022, I did 21. 2023, I want to do 40. I did 29. And I guess just being successful. But I do have a specific one.
Yeah.
I want to have 40 rental properties. I want them all paid off, $1,000 a month. And that's one of my whys, right? I've been a yoga teacher I was a yoga teacher for 12 years. I love teaching hot yoga, Bikram. Okay. Yeah. And I kind of want to go back to that. I love helping property owners. I love providing this service, but I wouldn't say I'm necessarily passionate about it. I would love to have my own yoga studio eventually. But it's kind of a thankless job. Yoga studios don't make a ton of money. So I need to be able to have my rentals be able to support, because I do like nice things. I like to teach yoga, but I want to live like a yoga teacher all I like nice
yeah.
things. I like to travel. I like going out to restaurants and shopping and all that. So I need to have a income that's coming in for my rentals so I can teach yoga or have a yoga studio. So I guess that's my why, and I'm pretty close to it. I got 27 doors. I need 13 more to hit the 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find a lot of distressed properties. So I just don't want to do the rehabs to keep them. So if a good property comes along, I'll keep it. And that adds to my portfolio. So, but yeah, my why is my daughter. I have a 7-year-old daughter. I want to spend more time with her. I don't want to have to work a 9 to 5. I don't want to ever work for anybody. This allows me not to be my own boss.
Yeah.
So there's a few whys here and there. Yeah, but once I hit my 40 doors, I'm probably going to slow down on the wholesaling and just go back to teaching yoga a little bit. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey guys, if you know you want to quit your job in the next 3 months, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast because we've got some incredible frameworks with step-by-step instruction that you're not going to want to miss. Also, leave us a rating and review to let us know your favorite parts and why you want to get financial freedom. So it's important to do that and know what your why is because it's easy to get wrapped up in the business. You're like, well, the why is my daughter, but then the business takes all the time away from you and your daughter, right? Or from whatever your passion is. So I like that you've got it really focused in on that. And so and I feel you on the big rehabs too, because I've got one now that I started in October and it's not going to be done until next month. And if I had borrowed the money for that, the fees on borrowing that money would just be getting higher and higher. So it's like, luckily it's my own money and it's not, but it's, if I had gotten the financing, it would really be stressful,
of course,
to go through the whole big process. And the wholesaling, of course, is just 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's just
Headaches.
It's just weeks.
Yeah.
A lot less headache, a lot less stress. I use my own money too. I've been fortunate. That's why I do well on my rehab, my flips. But if I had to use other people's money, it would have been a lot less money, or in a couple of cases, I would have probably lost money. There's a couple deals I broke even on, but that was my money. If I would have had hard money, private money, it would have been negative. Yeah, I don't have a business model to do big rehabs. I just don't have it. I mean, I could if I wanted.
It's good to have that discipline too, because sometimes stuff comes along, you're like, oh, I could do that. And then it really jams up everything.
I know. I really have to watch myself. Oh, it won't be that bad. I can, I just, my last flip, I bought for $160,000 and I did $10,000 and I'm selling for $100. I'm making $100 profit. I only put 10 into it. Those don't come along that much. Yeah. But driving for dollars, I really find the bad houses. And so they really just, even though it's like, God, I can make 80 if I flip it. Jess, I'm like, Jess, just make the 25 and walk. Like, stop, like I always have to remind myself of that, but when certain ones come along, it's definitely worth the stress, like the last one I did, but most of them are not like that. They're the big projects. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so you're just driving for dollars.
Yeah.
Or are you doing anything else?
Yeah, but I have people to do it for me now. I got a couple people, one in Illinois, one in Indiana, they drive for me. That's the only difference is I don't do the driving myself.
Gotcha. Yeah. How do you pay those two people that do the driving for you now?
I pay them, one gentleman, I pay just an hourly, and then he gets, he's very close to me. I give him a pretty good bonus when we get a deal, $1,000. And then my other driver, he wants more money on the front end. So I pay him $25 an hour, a little more on the front, driving hourly, and then he gets $500 a deal. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Yep.
And how did you find them? Obviously, the one was close to you, but where did you find the other person?
Yeah, you're going to laugh. My sister is on a dating app, and my sister was doing some driving for me, and the guy she was talking to, she said she was driving, my sister's a wholesaler, and he was a wholesaler.
With her for a date?
Yeah, well, instead of a date, they never went on a date. She just gave him my number, and he called me. He's like, Lisa, I was a wholesaler in Atlanta. I'm really having a hard time in Illinois market, which Illinois market is a much harder market to wholesale in. They have a lot more rules and attorneys, and he was just having a hard time. And I said, well, why don't you drive for me? You can do your own thing with the money you make for me, and I'll pay a percentage of the deal if we get it. And so, and he's been driving me since August. Yeah, and he's very consistent. He would love to drive more than 20 hours a week if I could afford to pay. I was like, no, that's so much more. That's so much more, out of the budget. But that's how I found him. It was hard to find a drivers before them. That's one thing I struggle with, is finding. I did struggle with was finding a driver, reliable drivers. I trained like 4 or 5. They last like 2 or 3 weeks, and then they would, it wasn't for them, so yeah.
Now, you said something about Illinois having their own regulations for wholesaling. Can you talk to me about what those are?
Sure.
And how you work within them?
Yeah, sure. So, for example, like Indiana, they don't have anything in place about wholesaling. They don't really bother people about this. In Illinois, they passed a law that says that you cannot wholesale a property unless you have a real estate license, except for one a year. So what I do now is I will double close it. I also found a realtor that's an investor who will allow me to wholesale under his real estate business for a 20% commission. 20% of that.
20% of the assignment.
The assignment fee. Yes.
Fair. So if you're making, $10,000, he gets $2,000.
Yes. Now, in retrospect, let's as a comparison, let's compare that to actually double closing. In Illinois, we use attorneys. To close on a property in Illinois, just for the seller, is about $3,500. That's not the buyer, that's the seller. The title fee, because the attorneys are about, just to give you an idea, $1,700. Plus you have the title company's fees. Plus you have transfer stamps in Illinois. The transfer title, you got to pay a certain percentage of the sale. Do you see? It adds up quick. So if you do, I'll give you an example.
So if you wholesale it, it's just flat $2,000.
Huh?
If you wholesale it, it's just a flat $2,000. Whereas if you double close, you have those attorneys.
Of course. Yeah, it would be $7,000 because you got to buy it $3,500 and then to sell it, it's like $35,000. I did one just like that. It was $10,000. I sold it for $33,000. I double closed it. When it was all said and done, it was like $8,000. I mean, we did all right. We made, $15,000, but we should have made about $23,000. If I would have done that through my realtor, it would have been a little bit less, So, I mean, if you're getting the deals done, I guess, but it's just hard, especially from Indiana, where it's nothing. It's really just minimal, and just the process of using attorneys in Illinois, everyone uses attorneys here, and attorneys like to just make things so much more difficult. I guess they're trying to protect the client, but I'm not.
Yeah, but as entrepreneurs, I'm like annoyed by some of that extra cautious protection.
Yes, it's very annoying.
Yeah.
I've had attorneys destroy deals for no reason, just because they think because they're getting paid to make it. I understand that you have to protect the client, but these sellers know what they're doing. Like they know. Like I go in there and I say, you can make more money if you fix this house up. Like I can't do that. Well, I'm going to buy it as is, right?
Yeah. Oh, you mean the attorney doesn't let you say that?
The attorneys, I'll give you an example. I had a property under contract that I rehabbed. I said it was going to. Okay, I'll give you. Here's another. I forgot to mention this about Illinois versus Indiana. Indiana, we don't do city inspections. In Illinois, the cities do their own inspections. To sell a property in Illinois, the city comes in and does their own inspection. So I had, right? Not the buyer's inspection. The buyer's paying that extra money. In addition to that, the seller has to pay $100 or $200 for the city to come in and inspect it in order for them to sell it to another buyer. And that new buyer has only so many months to fix the things that the city has found is wrong with the property, right? Which is, as a flipper, is not a big deal. But as of when I flipped a property and I sell it to a retail buyer, all fixed up and nice, I tell them at the beginning, waive the city inspection. Like you can do that in some of the towns. You can waive it. The buyer agrees to it. Yeah, we'll waive the city inspection. No big deal. We're going to get our own inspection. Then the attorney comes along and says, no, we're not allowing our client to waive the city inspection. That has to be done too. And I'm like, no. So I cancel the contract. Just like I said, the process is, but there's so much opportunity out here too in Illinois. So it's kind of like you just have to learn the nuances and you have to be okay with dealing with them. And you can still make money. It's just, like I said, in Indiana, 2 weeks I can buy a property or wholesale within 2 weeks. Here, if you put a property under contract, you got to do a city inspection. Oh, they're out 3 weeks already. It's going to take 3 weeks to get.
Yeah. So how could you do it? How could you do it in 2 weeks?
Yeah, you can.
You have to get them to waive it.
You have to get it to waive it.
Right.
And that's only in some towns. Some towns, they don't have the waive. You can't waive it. You don't have the waiver. You have to get it done. And if they're out 2 or 3 weeks and then you have to wait another week to get the inspection report back, Like, see how it just prolongs the time?
Man, there's so much regulation.
Yeah, it's so
Slows you
much.
down.
Yeah, it's a lot of government intrusion out here. But, I live in Illinois. There is opportunity. Like I said, the flip that I'm doing right now, I could have wholesaled that flip that I mentioned that I'm going to make a very large profit on. I could have wholesaled it for $35,000 all day. Right? That wasn't easy. That town doesn't do inspections. They didn't use they used my attorney. It was real easy. But for most deals, it's not like that. So, and the wholesaling becomes a little more complicated too, guys, when you think about city inspections, because they want to know the buyer. But now I'm wholesaling, I'm assigning it. Now the buyer changed. Do you see now? So now you have a buyer on the form for the inspection, and now you changed it. So little nuances, guys. I don't want to bore you with all the details, but it's just a little more challenging.
I was curious.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when you do the wholesaling, then it's $2,000. You're saving the seller's side attorney fee, right? Or you're saving one of the attorney fees, but you still have to use a attorney to do the closing, right?
Yeah, you do have to use a attorney. My attorney that I use gives a discount. Like, for instance, if I tell the seller I'm going to pay all closing costs, my attorney gives me a discount on the title because he knows that because he's a flipper's attorney. He usually gives a discount on the front end and then gets a normal fee when we sell it to flip it. But he's not really a wholesaling attorney. It doesn't really work for his business model, but he still do it for me as an assignment if I want. But he doesn't really like doing them because, like I said, everyone is so, wholesaling so bad. Oh, God, we're out to take. Okay, well, let me back up. There are a lot of wholesalers in Illinois that don't know what they're doing, and they put things under contract. Right. They put deals under contract, right? And they don't tell the seller that they're not buying it, and then they can't find a buyer, right? And then the seller's like, where'd you go? What happened? You're not buying my property? They just disappear. They just disappear. They don't even call the seller or anything. I've had that happen a few times. So they put protections in place for that not to happen. But it kind of spoiled it for the rest of the legitimate wholesalers that actually do know what they're doing,
Right. I get
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got a clearly defined goal. You need 13 more rental properties, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is there a certain number of wholesale deals you think you'll need to do to also hit the rental goal?
Well,
you did 29 last year.
Yes. I did do 29. Some of those deals was with a partner that was doing texting for me. So,
okay. So you split the assignment.
We split the assignment fee. So some of those deals were because of him.
That's great.
He's out of Jersey, and in the Midwest, our assignment fees are a little less because a lot of times it's based on the AR after repair values of houses. Well, the median sales prices in New Jersey is like $400, $500. I had that same thing with Zach in Utah. He wanted to come and partner with me. The median sale price out there is $500,000. Their wholesales are 30, 40, 50. They're splitting 50-50.
Right, because it's a bigger price.
Yeah. You come to Midwest, you got 15,000, 20. You get big ones too, but the average, the median sale prices in Midwest around my area is much less. So when they were splitting it, it wasn't cost effective for them to be partnering with me. So
okay, so they're not doing that anymore. Yeah. So you're doing your own.
I'm just gonna do my own back to postcards, and if I want to try to learn how to text, now with all those regulations, texting has a lot of regulations now. I have to learn how to circumvent that. That road. But my goal for the wholesaling is to do 20 deals this year. That's I right now, I know I went down from 40, but because I have a problem with delegation and because not a problem, but I am not really running a team is not really my thing. It's just it's hard for me to do. So it gets stressful. I'm doing too much myself. 20 I can handle.
Yeah.
Right. But if I do 20 deals and my average deal is between 20 and 30,000, then I'm going to use some of that money eventually to pay off my rentals. I'm really close to paying them off anyway. I've had them for 20 years. But when it comes to the goal of 13 more units, it's hard for me to define how I will reach that because I don't know what kind of deals that I'm going to come across with my wholesaling business. I almost have to have a separate channel for my rentals because the properties I get are so distressed and they're in sometimes rough areas. They're not in areas that I want to own my rentals in. So
Okay.
I mean, that's the long answer is I don't really have a defined sub goals to reach that main goal of 13 more units, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an Instagram where people can follow along?
I do have Instagram. It's just Jesseme Jean. I use Facebook more than Instagram.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yeah, Jesseme Jean, JESSEMEJENE. Yep. You can find me on Facebook too. Yeah.
Well, perfect place. Yeah, go find her on Facebook. And we really appreciate you sharing your story so that then you can get back to spending time with your 7-year-old daughter and teaching you.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate having an opportunity to meet you. And I appreciate
Yes, you too. And
Yeah.
awesome. Really enjoyed breaking down Illinois. That wasn't something I've had done on the podcast before, so it's going to be.
Yeah, I hope I explained it good. I'm sorry, guys. I rambled.
Yeah, you did.
But yeah, okay, cool. But yeah, I appreciate you guys giving me an opportunity to, and all the value that you give, David. That app is really like a revolutionary, I think. In my opinion.
Really appreciate you saying that. I'll definitely share that with my team. It'll make.
Yeah, please do, because that's what I feel like. It's awesome. I don't know how anybody could have ever done Drive for Dollars without an app. Like driving around writing addresses, going to the county. Oh my goodness. Yeah. All right, guys. All right, thank you so much. All right, you have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
We hope you guys enjoyed that episode on how to wholesale in Illinois. It reminds me of a past guest that we actually had that wholesaled in New York with a lot of regulation, and that would be episode 52 called A Single Deal, a Six-Figure Gain, Michael Pinder's extraordinary wholesaling success story. And if you guys are looking for doubling down for frameworks that will help you quit your 9-to-5, check out our Masterclass series on iTunes, because we just published Masterclass 22. If you've done 10 wholesale deals already, we've actually got another tool so that you can seller finance a deal when the seller can't accept a low offer, and then wholesale that seller finance deal and still make your assignment fee. We will see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.